What's up, troops? How's it going? Welcome back to a new video. I'm Craig, a former British soldier, and we're just discussing the immigration crisis that is hitting the UK at the minute. I previously did a video on this about possibly bringing the British military in as a short-term capability of, I don't know, approximately 12 months to help deter the issue of boats coming ashore and across the English Channel. Quite a few comments agreed that the British military should be securing the borders, and there was a few comments of a possible reserve unit being deployed permanently. So that made me think, what if we had a specialist unit? Because the issue we had, which was one of the sort of negatives I brought up about the British Army coming in, is they would be there to support border force processing the illegal migrants coming ashore. The reason being is them not understanding sort of the humanitarian role, the asylum acts, and all of that covers the legal side of them coming ashore. Because British military, we don't do legal. When we've supported the police in the past, it's there to support the police do the arrests. We're just there for extra manpower, and if anything goes wrong. But what if we had a long-term British Army Reserve border force, or a regular border force, a sustainable solution for UK border security? With increasing pressure on the UK's borders, particularly in the English Channel, there's been ongoing debate about whether a British Army Reserve border force unit could serve as a long-term solution to border security and immigration challenges. That's what's been going on in the comments section. While military involvement could provide greater security structure and response capability, it does raise the concerns about legal and ethical and diplomatic implications of using military personnel for border enforcement. But if you had that long-term border force, British Army Reserve or regular border force unit, there wouldn't be legal and ethical issues, because we'll go through some of the possible positives to this. Ongoing security and stability. We know this, okay? Over time, a specialist reserve unit would become an integrated part of the UK border enforcement, reducing reliance on full-time military deployments. British military is pretty spread far here in between, lower manpower, but an actual dedicated unit that we could recruit to could obviously prevent us taking away soldiers that are needed elsewhere. A well-trained force with maritime patrol capabilities could help monitor and prevent illegal crossings efficiently. The long-term presence of a dedicated border reserve unit would provide continuity and stability in tackling illegal migration and border security threats. The Special Reserve Border Force for border operations. A long-term solution requires more than just deploying regular reservists. A structured reserve unit specialised in border enforcement would be necessary. This force could receive dedicated training in border law, asylum processing, human trafficking investigations, ensuring legally compliant and effective border management. But over time, the unit could then develop expertise in their intelligence gathering, surveillance and maritime patrols, allowing for better operational efficiency. So a unit that has access to all the military equipment, understands all the laws, the processing, the powers that be to arrest, but also the military expertise in surveillance gathering, intelligence gathering, maritime patrols, and can get all the kit and equipment and have that sort of show of force with sort of the kit and equipment and the weapon systems. It could be cost-effective and scalable approach. Basically, maintaining a full-time military presence for border would be costly, but a trained reserve unit could be activated as needed, providing a cost-effective, flexible approach. So instead of having them 24/7, we can just deploy them for 6 months, take a month off when it quiets down in the winter, deploy them again, but they're sort of specialised in that role. And being a reserve unit, you would be able to do that. So it would save us basically diverting all our resources from active duty sort of military personnel. So the regular guys can go off and do their sort of thing. And there's, like I said, migration fluctuates. The force could be scaled up and down depending on the threat level, preventing unnecessary spending on permanent military presence. So boats get busy in the summer, sort of spring, deploy more, quietens down in the winter, have less of a military presence, but you still got that presence. With the reserve, obviously specialist unit, this then would improve cooperation between agencies. A long-term approach would require close coordination between Border Force, Coast Guard, law enforcement agencies, and the military reserve unit. So the joint training exercise could improve the efficiency of multi-agency operations, ensuring that border security remains a shared responsibility rather than solely a military task. A specialist unit could also work with international partners such as France and the EU to improve intelligence, sharing and enforcement strategies. Enhanced training in legal and humanitarian aspects of border force then. A long-term border force reserve unit would need specialist training in UK immigration law, asylum process, humanitarian rights. This is a massive thing, okay, because you're just going to end up all over the front of the Daily Mail if you do not do this correctly. If you do not handle them correctly, you do not process them correctly, you do not arrest them correctly. So it's got to be all done correctly. They've got to understand the laws. This would ensure that reservists understand their legal responsibilities and can balance security concerns with humanitarian obligations. So if it massively kicks off, you've got a military presence. If it's sort of more of a peace role, you still have them in kits. But more of in a dress down order, but they understand the laws as well. Having a well-trained force capable of distinguishing between illegal migrants, asylum seekers and victims of trafficking would reduce the risk of human rights violations and strengthening the UK's commitment to ethical border management. They're obviously already trying to do this on the borders, but what we're trying to do out as well is we're trying to prevent them from covering across, but while gathering that intelligence. If you've got a constant, permanent deployment of guys that are really specialised and trained in not just the legal side, but intelligence gathering, reconnaissance, looking at people, looking at the patterns, building a picture, doing patrol reports every day, understanding what's going on, who's coming over regularly, who's not. So you can understand those that are being trafficked, those that aren't, and those that need arresting, and those that just need sending back. A sustainable national security strategy. By investing in a dedicated reserve unit, the UK could develop a long-term sustainable security strategy rather than relying on a short-term military intervention. The presence of a structured and legally trained force would allow for proactive management of border security rather than a reactive responses to migration surges. Over time, the UK could establish a model for integrated border defence that balances national security, law enforcement and humanitarian considerations. You've got loads of people that want humanitarian considerations, but we've also got a large general population that want national security and law enforcement. And this is what this could provide. It could bring peace of mind to the many, many millions of people of the UK. Once again, we do have to be careful of the risk of border militarization. Some people are going to get their back up with it, but I believe is it Poland, which I'll be doing a future video on soon, seem to be doing this, and the public seem to be on side. So yeah, the legal and diplomatic complexities that people could be complaining about now would be solved because the specialist unit would be trained in Immigration and Asylum Act, okay, and the processing and humanitarian laws. So you could sort of ensure that they are covered under that, so they aren't being too forceful. And you know, trying to go through positive and negatives. So this is informal, educational, and we're not trying to sort of push any sort of form of aggression. We're looking at it from both sides. You've still got that potential public and political backlash, but from the comments I'm seeing and the news and everything you see from the public is it could possibly go really well. You're going to get some backlash, as always. But it looks like the majority of people actually want this. They want our borders secure. They want our soldiers at home as well. So this could, I think, actually work instead of being a political or potential public nightmare. So, yeah. Let's have a look then. A long-term military-backed border force reserve unit could provide a structured and sustainable solution to managing the UK's borders by integrating legal training, humanitarian awareness and intelligence-led operations. This force could balance security needs with ethical border management. A continuous military presence through foot patrols, maritime surveillance and intelligence gathering could act as a powerful deterrent against illegal migration, with reserve units consistently monitoring the border. They could track and disrupt human trafficking networks by identifying those responsible for organising small boat crossings. A persistent and visible presence both onshore and at sea would send a clear message the UK is serious about securing its borders while upholding its legal and humanitarian responsibilities through a combination of enforcement, intelligence and international cooperation. This approach could enhance national security while addressing migration challenges effectively in the long run. I am not saying this is not what they're trying to do at the minute. I am saying recruit a reserve unit, training up, train them up, get that presence out there, especially when it's at its busiest. Have that deterrent, but also have more manpower doing patrols, gathering intelligence, writing patrol reports, trying to figure out who the local sort of smugglers are, the ones driving the boats, who are coming across regularly, but having more and more manpower on the borders as a deterrent, as a possibility. This is just all a possibility, and just, points that could be possibly made to be put out there. So be very interested to know what your thoughts are on this possible British Army Reserve regular border force unit deployed as and when needed, at times, to have a long-term sort of military presence on our borders. It's our borders at the end of the day. We've got to defend ourselves against foreign and domestic threats. But be very interested to know. Thank you for watching. Remember to head over to www.combatreadyhq.co.uk. Check out some of our amazing coffee blends, t-shirts, patches and mugs, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.